what was being required of him. But occasionally the penny drops and you think, oh, right, that's what that scene was about, or that's what this part of the character was about. So that was an instance of what I learned there was really pace. You know, it's very much a marathon, not a sprint.
What about in Love Actually? Was that a film?
Yes. Yeah, it was. Being naked is all. I mean, you know, being naked in front of not quite this many people, but in front of maybe 80 people on a film set is not the most pleasurable thing in the world. You know, it's very technical and very scary. You know, I've done that a few times in films, and you know, I mean, they try and look after you with what we call a closed set by making sure that the people aren't just wandering around having a look in, and because they do. All of a sudden, I remember filming Love Actually, and the driver taking me home said, "Oh, I hear there was a bit of nudity on set today." He didn't know it was, and I said, "Yeah." I said, "I hear there was a young girl who was naked in it." I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, because some of the boys were looking in." And, all of a sudden, you know, the catering people get very interested in the film when there's a naked woman on set. But in that instance, certainly, Joanna Page was the lovely actress in it, and we kind of just looked after each other. You know, you kind of feel a slight. Because, let's face it, men and women are seen in a different way. In the world, they're seen in a different way, and certainly in my industry, they're seen in a different way, and it's much easier for a woman to be objectified than a man. And so you do sort of tend to, not in a chivalrous way, but hopefully in a human way, you feel very protective over someone that you know, because generally the chefs and the drivers aren't women, they're men who want to kind of come in and have a bit of that, and you do feel your own responsibility to not let that happen. But at the same time, you're also terrified for yourself. Because, you know, hang on, I'm naked in front of 80 people as well, and that's also terrifying. It becomes very professional. That's the thing, it becomes really uber professional and quite humorless if you're not careful. So in another way, it's kind of incumbent on you to break the ice and make sure everyone is a bit relaxed about it. But that's difficult when you're not relaxed. There's nothing relaxing about being naked in front of a crowd of people. It's not easy at all.
So, would anyone like to ask a question? Sure. Yeah, we go. Fair play to you guys, standing up.
I'm Martin Hadian. I'm the biggest Office fan ever. Just wanted like my favourite scenes, like Tim's appraisal with David Brent. Is there a scene that you love and kind of watch back with a lot of comments?
Funny, one came on the other night, and we watched it at home. And I think you got it. You know, it's dated very well. I think it still stands up and is funny. You know, I think it's a funny show. I'm very proud of it. That's a good scene, that appraisal one. Is that for those of you who don't know, but David Brent does an appraisal of all the staff, and we all go in for our individual appraisals with David Brent, who is finding ways to basically aggrandise himself and make us say nice things about him. But that scene sort of does stand out in my memory, because a scene that should have taken an hour to film between Ricky and myself, and it took 3, because nothing gave him greater pleasure on that job than making people laugh. You know, whether it was relevant to the script, whether it was going to hold us up, it didn't matter. You know, like, he wasn't really alive unless he had the oxygen of making other people laugh, and it was horrendous. I mean, it was truly horrendous. At the end of it all, you just want to get it in the can, you want to get the job done. You think, well, this is a scene, we have to get it finished today. We're supposed to get it finished in an hour, and by hour 2.5, you think, well, what if we never get this? We never ever stop laughing, because every time that I, as Tim, would come into the room, he would say something else that wasn't in the script that was so preposterous, so ridiculous, purely to make me laugh. And I would sort of say to him quite a lot, like, this is your show, why are you doing it? You're not benefiting from it. All you're doing is making us laugh here now. This isn't going out. All the ridiculous things you're saying are not going to be in the show, so this is you're wasting your own time. But he's a baby and he can't help himself. But no, I remember that was all in all, from all the angles. There were 75 takes of that, because we could not get through it. There is some of it is on YouTube actually. If you look up, you know, that scene on YouTube, there is a small sample of what it was. Ludicrous. It was absolutely ludicrous. But it was a joy. We spent a lot of every day like that. You know, we spent probably a good 10 hours trying not to laugh. And God, however frustrating that can be, because you do want to kill him sometimes. When what he's doing is just trying to make you go. But God, since I've learned there are many, many worse ways to make a living.
I was in Minnesota last year on exchange, and if you want someone to help you with the accent,
God bless her try.
my question is, what is your most meaningful role that you've done so far?
They all have different meaning in different ways. Well, no, that's not true. I've done some roles that I care less about than others, is the truth, I suppose. But by my own standards, I've been lucky that I've done quite a lot of things. Whose phone is that? I mean, I know you're all young people, but there are limits. Decorum and respect. There are roles that mean something to, whether I've seen it with 20 other people or, or millions of people have seen it. There have been a few things that I've really liked. I mean, I like John Watson. I think I love doing that. I loved doing Tim. I played Rembrandt in a film by Peter Greenaway, which I loved doing. That was a huge challenge as well. For various reasons. I suppose things take on a different meaning. I suppose because you associate them with a different time of your life as well. Actually, because the reality of, say, something like the aforementioned Hobbit is because it takes up such a large chunk of your life. When you watch it, you're not only watching the film, you're watching your memories of New Zealand and who was in that scene, and oh God, I really miss him, I'd love to see him. It's a huge chunk of your life. So that takes on a kind of different meaning. When you're not just watching what's on screen, you're remembering what happened off screen as well. But I don't know, there have been a few. Yeah, there have been a few. I'll speak to you later about the accent.
You did so you played Watson, you did a lot of big film, you played by a lot of people and you wrote very famous books, and then as well in The Hobbit, which followed Lord of the Rings success. Was it hard stepping into the shoes of those roles and really big, well-known characters?
I'll just say, and again, at the risk of sounding blasé about it, because I wasn't and I'm not blasé about it at all. I'm very grateful for it, but not really. But I think because my approach has always been. Well, this is my go, and I think, I have every right to it, as the people who come after me will have every right to it. And I didn't even try not to see it like that. It never occurred to me to see it like stepping into a huge legacy in that way. I mean, it's different because with Bilbo, I suppose, Ian Holm has already kind of prefaced that at Bilbo in 50 years' time. He's done that 14 years ago, and he's done it very well, thank you very much, and so I'd be silly if I didn't take note. But I can't play Ian Holm playing Bilbo, I have to play me playing Bilbo. So it's still your own thing. I think with Sherlock Holmes, there have been so many incarnations of those characters, and there will be so many more after we're all dead and gone, that this is literally our go. So this is the one that goes for our time, and people will either like it or they don't. It's been amazing how much people have liked it. We could not have seen that coming, quite frankly. We liked it, but we had no idea that people would feel so fanatical about it. So no, I didn't feel that pressure. I think also partly the fact that it's updated helps that a little bit, because it takes it away from the pipes and the carriages and the sort of, the deerstalker thing, although there is a deerstalker in it. It's not just an uber traditional kind of telling of it. It's not a Victorian telling of it. You felt much more like a blank you had a blank canvas to do with it as you felt, and we were encouraged with that, and the writing was different enough to encourage us to do that. So, in all honesty, I didn't feel the great pressure, no. I didn't. The more pressure is when something is a great success, is how you match that and top it. That's because we just filmed Series 3, and the big thing for us is, Christ, how do we make this, and again, at the risk of sounding arrogant, how do we make it even better than we already are? but we know it's a good show, and we know people like it, and so we want it to be better, and we want the audience to respond to that. That's the pressure. Do you know what I mean? And I guess for the second and third Hobbit films, and again, it's not my, The Hobbit is not my film. It's Peter Jackson's film. God forbid it was all down to me. It would be horrendous, But he's better at all that than I am. So that's his decision to worry about how do you make it better. But all of you involved in a project feel, could you at least want to be as good? You have to be as good and preferably better. So please God, yeah, we've done that, I hope, but we'll see in January with Sherlock. I've not seen them yet. Yeah.
How do you inject such life into like ordinary characters without making it seem boring?
Not my words, the words of this lovely lady here. I inject a lot of life into ordinary characters. How do I do that? God alone knows. Well, thank you. Thanks. I try and treat characters, I suppose, with respect. And with the respect that they deserve, so I try not to... I'm not a huge fan of sneering at characters or commenting on characters as you're playing them. I think that's a cheap shot, and I think it's too easy to do. And it's essentially caricaturing. My feeling... I'll give an extreme example just because I always go to a stupid extreme before I can do anything else. You know, Hitler did not wake up thinking, Jesus, I'm evil. You know, he woke up thinking, I've got an idea. You know. Now, I happen not to think the idea was good. I think the idea was bang out of order. I'll just go on record now that I'm a big dissenter with that. But he, as well as Stalin, as well as everybody else who has been a complete monster to us, thinks they're a reasonable person. So I think, well, if they think they're reasonable, then God, you know, the people I play, certainly, you know, and have played in the main, must think they're just a normal person trying to negotiate their way through life. Because I think that's what everyone does, by the way. I'm sure that's what everyone in this room does, and everyone outside of this room does, is they're thinking, I'm just trying to find my way through. Some people do it in very different ways. Adolf. Other people do it in less extreme ways, you know. And somehow, I don't know how, but I've got a sort of... which it doesn't particularly please me, I have to say. I don't hate it, but I've not sought it out. I've got a kind of reputation for just playing the ordinary guy and the